Erev Tov, welcome to another edition of our Monday night class studying the Amida from the Holy Sefer by Rabbi Zev Leff on the Shmona Esrei. It's been a while since we've had this class from before the Hagim, but we are back and we are continuing where we left off. If you want to find the previous installments of the Shiur, you can feel free to check them out on our podcast, findingholiness.buzzsprout.com. You can find the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your podcasts, and as well the website as well. So check it out if you want to get a catch up. If not, it's okay, because we are beginning the fourth beracha of the Amida, the first of the 13 berachot of the Shmona Esrei, the first middle 13, of the 13 berachot, which are the 13 requests, bakashot, that are said in the Amida. And the first one is that of bina, of de'ah, of knowledge, in which we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for da'at and bina, wisdom and understanding. The Gemara tells us that this beracha follows the bracha of Kedushat Hashem, which is Ha'el HaKadosh, because of the connection and juxtaposition of two pesukim, ve'ikdishu et kedosh Yaakov. So you see that he kedishu la'akdish et kedosh Yaakov, and ve'yadu to'eh ruach bina. So they shall sanctify the Holy One of Yaakov, and those who have erred in spirit will understand. So we see here the connection of understanding, just as the pasuk of bina follows kedusha, so too the first comes sanctity, kedusha, and then comes understanding. It's a first in a group of berachot that are recited in the weekday Amida, and that's why it's also referred to as Beracha Shel Hol. It's the first of the bakashot of the Shmona Esrei, because without wisdom, without knowledge, a person can't pray. The rabbis tell us that from the Gemara that one is prohibited to have mercy on someone who lacks da'at, who lacks wisdom, and we're going to see this. We're going to talk about this later on in the Shi'ur. So if we're not worthy of Hashem's mercy and deserve the requests and supplications that we're about to embark on, then we have to first possess understanding. That's what we're missing. Understanding, find the reason why we're not worthy of it. This beracha was actually originally stated and recited by the malachim, the angels, on two occasions. First, when the angel taught Yosef the 70 languages before he appeared in front of Paro. And second, when Hashem revealed the secret of his holy name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, to Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush. In both instances, Midrashim tell us that the angels responded with this blessing, Baruch Ata Hashem Chonen Adat. Blessed are you, Hashem, who bestows wisdom. And these two instances, when this beracha was first recited, are very, very significant. All aspects of true da'at, of true knowledge, represented by the 70 languages, are in fact facets, part of Hashem's holy name. And all of human experience testify to the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His name. So the Torah, which was translated into 70 languages, and Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Torah in all 70 languages, so they can learn and discover all of its nuances and all the connections, the possible connections to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Beracha actually contains 17 words, which correspond to the 17 words found in the Pasuk that describes the command to Moshe to speak to those with the skills and wisdom needed to produce the clothing for the Kohanim. There are 17 words in that pasuk when giving the instructions to make the clothing for the Kohanim. Also, it hints at the word Tov. Tov has a numerical value of 17. Of course, Tov means good. And the allusion here is that wisdom, that is the root of all good. Because anybody who possesses wisdom can use it to acquire many, many other benefits. So too, Shlomo HaMelech wisely requested from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give him da'at. Of course, this is back in Sefer Melachim, where God came up to him and appeared to him and said, I'll give you everything you want. You want riches? I'll give you riches. You want long life? I'll give you long life. You want, you name it, health, whatever it is. And Shlomo HaMelech asked for da'at. He asked for knowledge, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him everything as a reward. With true wisdom and understanding, we can better perceive the purpose and benefit of all of life's moments, and therefore we could truly enjoy the goodness that we have in our life, even if the circumstances in our lives don't seem to give that impression. And therefore we have to understand and believe that really the wisdom that we get is a gift. And the last letters of the letters Ata Chonen L'Adam Da'at, Ata Chonen L'Adam Da'at, how the bracha begins, is spell out matana, because wisdom is truly a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One of the differences between this blessing and all the other blessings of supplication is that we actually begin this bracha not with a request, but we begin it with a statement of praise to establish true wisdom. The wisdom we request emanates from God. Ata chonen l'adam da'at. Hashem, you bestow man with wisdom. It's not a request. In all the other brachot, we begin with a request. Refa'enu, heal us. Hashivenu, return us. But now it's this opening line of praise, because wisdom is not really something exclusive to the Jewish people. The rabbis tell us in the Gemara, in the Midrash, Chochma ba'goyim ta'amin. If someone tells you that wisdom exists amongst the non-Jews, you have to believe him. But it's only the Chochma that is rooted in the truths of the origin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of the universe, and which of course, the Torah, which also preceded the universe, that is what is the ultimate wisdom. And hence, we understand that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are a few other reasons why this beracha begins with praise and not with a request. I'm going to provide you with 4 of them. One reason is because it's the first blessing of the request, and it follows the first 3 blessings, which are totally comprised of praise. So this first line of praise in this beracha forms a bridge that links the 2 sections of Shmona Esrei. The first 3 brachot are that of praise, and then you have the next 13, which are supplications, but the first line of the first of the 13 is one of praise. Another reason that's given is that on Motzei Shabbat, one is not allowed to make personal requests until he recites Havdalah in the Amida. And this phrase, Ata chonen l'adam da'at, precedes the Havdalah in Motzei Shabbat, precedes the Ata chonantanu, and therefore no request was inserted in the first phrase, and it's reserved until after the paragraph of Ata chonantanu is recited. Third, there's an opinion in the Gemara Yerushalmi that this bracha was included as part of the Shabbat Amida, and it was not deleted like the other middle brachot of the weekday. So since personal requests and supplications are not allowed to be done on Shabbat, the nusach of the bracha on Shabbat consisted only of this phrase. So this used to be, according to Talmud Yerushalmi, this used to be a bracha in our Shabbat Amidah, but all it consisted of were the words Ata chonen l'adam da'at. This is what the v'chonen meitcha. This is it. Ata chonen l'adam da'at. Sorry. The next part of the bracha, v'chonen meitcha, the request of asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give us understanding, to give us de'ah, that was added later on. And lastly, our rabbis tell us that Chazal tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to the wise. To be able to acquire and request wisdom, a person has to already have some wisdom. That's what the rabbis tell us. And it's this initial wisdom which Hashem gave us as a gift that we refer to in the first phrase before we start asking for more wisdom. The Pirkei Avot says, who is really wise? Ezeu chacham, halomed mikol adam, one who learns from everyone. Is a person who spends his whole life seeking wisdom at every opportunity. He is truly the wise one. So first one must possess the love for wisdom, And for that, we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for that, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us that, and then we are able to request and receive further chokhmah. The actual request for wisdom begins, Chonenu me'itcha de'a bina ve'askel. Graciously bestow upon us from you wisdom, insight, and discernment. Baruch atah Hashem chonen da'at. The key here is the word me'itecha, from you, which teaches me that the knowledge is still part of God. When we see a big Torah scholar on the street or pass us by, we say a beracha, asher chalak mechochmato lire'av. We say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu apportioned from His wisdom to those who fear Him. In fact, we even say a blessing for a secular scholar. We say, Asher natan mechochmato lebasar badam, that God gives His wisdom to flesh and blood. See, Torah wisdom is not something that's automatic. It's apportioned. It's given out to people. God comes with wisdom, and He gives it to only lire'av. He only gives it to people who fear Him. Only a person who is a true yireh shamayim can truly attain and appreciate the wisdom. Secular wisdom, on the other hand, is given to anybody who is made out of flesh and blood. Kol basar badam. So we ask that the wisdom that we are given on any level be wisdom me'itcha. It has to be your wisdom that comes from you and remains with you. That's the wisdom of the Torah. And we ask that HaKadosh Baruch Hu grant us de'ah bina ve'askel. Actually, depending on which nusach you pray, you may have different words printed in your Siddur. Nusach Ashkenaz use, and also many Moroccans use the words de'ah bina ve'askel, and the rest of the Sfaradim and Nusach Sfarad use chokhmah, bina, and da'at. There are many interpretations to the specific meaning of each term. Some say that chokhmah, when used in relation to bina and da'at, connotes the process of integrating data and analyzing the data to achieve truth. That's what chokhmah is. It's the first step to acquire wisdom. Bina comes from the word boneh, to build. And that connotes building onto something by inference, by deduction, by induction, being sensitive to various implications of text or whatever you're studying, coming to proper conclusions. That's bina. And in that context, da'at is the final stage of taking the knowledge and the implications and putting them into practical applications, into real life situations, and living by them. Chachamim tell us that the three regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, follow this pattern. Pesach represents chokhmah because it recounts the facts of our redemption from Mitzrayim, which is both our physical and our spiritual foundation of our nation. That's what we have to start with. After that comes Shavuot. Shavuot corresponds to Binah, which is the understanding of the implications of those foundations of Emunah, which took place on Pesach, that led to the acceptance of the yoke of Torah on Har Sinai when we accepted the Torah. And Sukkot, which just passed, is the Yom Tov of Da'at. It's a holiday of knowledge, where knowledge and the implications are expressed through action. There's actually an application taking place. There's the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah, dwelling in the sukkah, and shaking the arba minim, and therefore that is da'at. So when the Chachamim tell us that it's prohibited to have mercy on someone who lacks da'at, it doesn't refer to someone who lacks chokhmah, who lacks book knowledge, or even binah, which is high IQ, or someone who's just really, really smart. It refers to someone who fails to apply what he learns into his everyday life. A person who behaves in a way that is irrational, despite the fact that he has knowledge, despite the fact that he has understanding, but he fails to do it. A person who has mercy on such a person Okay, this is wrong, as our Chachamim tell us. You have mercy on a victim, a person who has no control, beseder. But that is something that everybody can achieve because you have a basic knowledge. You utilize your free will properly. You're able to say arba minim, and therefore a person who does not put in any effort to achieve this is not worthy of receiving mercy. And having mercy on such a person, if you do, implies that you are agreeing with that behavior, that irrational behavior, and you're accommodating him. You're lehavdil. You're giving drugs out of compassion to a person who is a drug addict who's begging for them when you know it's wrong. You're aiding someone who to gamble by giving him money so they can go to the casino. His goals are not good goals. His goals are sinful goals. They're just constantly looking for areas to fall further. So it's cruelty what you're doing. You know, a patient that begs his doctor to withhold treatment or lehefech, to prescribe something pleasurable, but in the end it's harmful to his body. The doctor can't comply. The doctor can't agree to such a thing. What kind of person will agree to such distorted requests from the patient? And you're going to tell me it's merciful? So therefore, out of real mercy for the person, you have to refuse to comply. That's what the Chachamim mean. You're going to force the patient to do something that he doesn't want to do, but you know that it's in his best interest. The Tzlach HaKadosh explains that acquiring true dat requires a lot of siyata dishmaya, a lot of heavenly help. And that is initiated by a person's own desire to do good. Chachamim tell us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, open for me the opening of a needle, and I'll open for you a opening as wide as a banquet hall. So our ultimate success in overpowering all the evil in this world and the Yetzer Hara, that requires divine assistance. It requires HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help. And if God's not there, we fail. We fail immediately. But we have to make the decision. We have to put in the effort to show that we want Hashem to help us. And therefore, if one is then lacking knowledge to implement that which is wise and proper, then this is a person that doesn't deserve divine mercy. He doesn't deserve HaKadosh Baruch Hu's assistance. So we have to emulate God, because that's our job. And we have to deny this person mercy. That's what the Gemara is talking about when it says prohibited to have mercy on someone who lacks da'at. So therefore, in this context, true chokhmah, says Rabbi Leff, which is the goal of all factual wisdom, is to create a person who becomes a chacham. The person who possesses all levels of wisdom, chokhmah, binah, da'at. And the chacham, according to the Rambam, is the one who can effectively guide and control his behavior in the most perfect manner. Hence, when we read the Pesach Haggadah on the night of Pesach, on the Leila Seder, the Haggadah contrasts the chacham, the wise son, with the rasha, the wicked son. At first glance, it doesn't make sense. The chacham should be contrasted with the tipesh, the fool. The opposite of a chacham is a tipesh. And the rasha should be contrasted with the tzaddik. But that's not what we're saying, based on what Rabbi Leff is telling us here. The rasha, the wicked person, is the antithesis of the chacham. And the true chacham is in fact a tzaddik. And that's why it's contrasts like that in the Haggadah. It's a beautiful chidush. I want to move now to explain a couple of statements in from our Chachamim that are difficult to understand, and a lot of people, especially ladies, as we're going to see, take note of this and often lay claim to some of the words of our rabbis. The distinctions between da'at and binah, they give us an insight into two very difficult statements concerning women. Our rabbis tell us in Masechet Shabbat, Nashim da'atan kalot alehem. Literally translated, that the women's knowledge is weak. So what it means, which seems to lower or lessen the mental capabilities of the female. And like I said, a lot of ladies take issue with this for good reason, but as I'm going to explain, it's not exactly so. At the same time, the rabbis also tell us, Bina yetera nitna be'isha yoter mi be'ish, that there's greater understanding was given to woman even more than man. Sometimes when women come up to me and quote the first statement of the rabbis, and they're all upset, I tell them, I go, what about the second statement? The second statement says that you have more understanding than the men. A lot of times they don't even know the second statement exists. They focus on that first one. But there's a second statement here that seems to lift them in a higher light than men. So, in fact, it's from this second statement that greater understanding was given to a woman than man, that girls are become liable for mitzvot 1 year earlier. This is the source, that they become bat mitzvah at 12 years old versus their male counterparts, which is at 13 years old. So what is the meaning of these two statements? To understand, you have to look at them together, and there is a distinction between da'at and bina. The second statement of bina informs us that a woman was given an extra measure of bina, both intrinsically and as well in her relationship to a man. And therefore, the implication of the extra measure of bina explains the first statement. A woman's understanding is potentially stronger than her da'at, than her own da'at. Now, although she has da'at, the rabbis never said that women have no knowledge. That's not what they said. They said that their knowledge is kalot alehem, it's light. And therefore, she has da'at, but her understanding, her level of binah is slightly more intense. So, in relation to her binah, to her understanding, her da'at is lighter. But not intrinsically light. And that's why the wording of the Chachamim is Nashim datan kalot alehem. That implies that it's light onto them, the way it's look on them. That their da'at is light with respect to themselves. It's a relatively light, but not absolutely light. A man's role is enhanced by his ability to learn Torah, specifically Mishnah and Gemara, Torah Shebe'al Peh, and as well as his ability to analyze the facts that are presented to him by deduction and process of elimination, so on and so forth. And for that, you need pure da'at. You need the ability to objectively analyze everything that's around and integrate factual knowledge. This is why many promote the idea that women should not study Talmud. Although nowadays there are many, many women that do study Talmud, and many successfully study Talmud, and many have finished Shas, they've done Daf Yomi, and there's ladies Daf Yomi classes, and Kol HaKavod to them. No one said it's asur for women to learn Talmud. But when you hear of people or schools that say that women should not learn Talmud, it's because of this. Because the analytical skills that are required are concentrated more in the man based on the way he was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he contains a more intense level of da'at versus that of the woman. The woman is ezer kenegdo. She takes the factual knowledge that her husband brings home as halacha. She builds on it because she is bina, like we said, bina is boneh, and she puts it in the practical framework for how to run the house. Hence, the Torah, the Shlomo Melech says in Mishleh, Chochmat Nashim Banta Beita, that the woman's mental prowess is her ability to build her home through that extra bina that she has. Remember, she has one level of bina higher than man. And therefore, her sensitivity, her intuition, and her what she takes from what the husband brings in, she's able to stabilize her home. And together, they create this unbelievable hybrid, mixture of de'ah and haskel, of knowledge and understanding, and they're able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu unbelievably. The last part I want to say tonight is that this beracha, this fourth beracha, the bracha of knowledge, is also the location where we insert the Havdalah paragraph on Saturday night. The Gemara Masechet Brachot, the Mishnah Masechet Brachot, actually, there's a three-way machloket on where should the paragraph of Havdalah be inserted. And one of the opinions is in this bracha of Chonen Adat. There's another bracha that says it should be, another opinion that says it should be in the bracha of Modim. And I think it's Rabbi Akiva's opinion that says the bracha should be on its own, should be a separate bracha. But we follow the opinion, I believe, of Rabbi Eliezer that says it is embedded in the blessing of Chonen Adat. And we include this paragraph of Ata Chonantanu in the fourth bracha of the Amida, which serves as a verbal recitation of Havdalah. And by reciting this paragraph, one actually fulfills his obligation of Havdalah. And that's why after synagogue, you may not have to hear Havdalah in shul, but you can technically drive home. If you said that paragraph, it counts as Havdalah. In addition to this, as the Jewish community got wealthier over time, the rabbis also instituted the recitation of Havdalah over a cup of wine. Why did the rabbis establish to say Havdalah at this point in the Amidah? They did so based on the premise of Im en da'at Havdalah minayin. Without understanding, then where is your Havdalah? Havdalah means distinction. There can be no fine distinctions or separations between the holy and the profane, ben kodesh lechol, or in other areas of life. We said earlier that before one recites Havdalah and brings the holiness of Shabbat to a conclusion, a person is not allowed to make any personal requests. So before he can proceed with any of the requests of the Amidah on Saturday night, which is the weekly Amidah, he has to say Havdalah, because that, like we said before, you need to say Havdalah before any personal request. In fact, there is a hint to this in the bracha of Bina, in this bracha. The first letters of the word Besamim, Yayin, Ner, and Havdalah spell out Bina. It spells out Bina, understanding. So we see that the four essentials to a proper Havdalah, Besamim, Yayin, Ner, and Havdalah, spell out understanding. That's one allusion to this. The Gemara tells us, Masechet Brachot, another connection between Da'at and Havdalah. The Gemara tells us that if a person walks with large steps, his eyesight is impaired by 1/500th. But it could be repaired. And it's repaired through the wine of Havdalah and Kiddush. Okay, you can take that literally. We lose 1/500th of our eyesight, and therefore in order to fix that eyesight loss, we have to drink Havdalah, the wine of Havdalah and the wine of Kiddush. But maybe the Chachamim are trying to tell us something a little bit deeper. One who fails to journey through this world slowly with a proper mindset and is not sensitive to everything that he encounters, he's going to have his eyesight impaired. His ability to view situations, to judge people, to judge encounters with the proper mindset and perception will be deficient if a person runs through this world, if he takes large steps, if he's going too fast. And the cure to this is through wine of Kiddush and Havdalah. Because twice a week, at Kiddush and on Havdalah, we are forced to slow down. We are forced to take notice from all the differences around us. We separate light from darkness. We separate day 6 from Shabbat, both at the beginning and the conclusion. And that allows us to carefully and properly assess all the small nuances that distinguish Kodesh from Chol. And as well the Jewish people and the rest of the nations, as we say in that paragraph of Havdalah. We are a Mamlechet Kohanim. We are a nation of priests, a holy people, representatives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in order to achieve this, we must be Goy Kadosh, a holy nation, a nation whose entire way of life, our lifestyle, which encompasses not only our values, goals, but as well as our moral standards and our personality, is holy in every sphere, whether it is individually in ourselves or communally in the way we eat, in the way we drink, in our social life, in our economic pursuits, in the politics that we believe in and that we don't believe in. Everything, all of our expressions need to be of purity and holiness. And therefore, we have to find a way to separate ourselves from the secular lifestyle of the nations of the world. It's not right to have the same standards and goals of the nations, and yet at the same time we have to keep mitzvot. You know, for those, this is taking place, we're recording this on October 4th, 2021. Today there was a 5 to 6 hour outage on WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram. It was the only people that were happy were the Twitter followers, because that was still going. And I think for 5 to 6 hours, it was a pretty big outage. People around the world, based on what I was reading, now that it came back on, finally got a glimpse of what life would be to actually pick up a phone and call somebody. What life would be when you didn't have all this social media bogging you down. There was like a little sense of freedom where, hey, all of a sudden I got some spare time. What am I going to do with this spare time? Maybe I'll take a book. Maybe I'll learn some Torah. Maybe I'll listen to a shiur. Maybe I'll go on a podcast. Maybe I'll be inspired somehow, instead of wasting minute after minute just scrolling with our thumb up and up and up, and sometimes we don't realize how long we've been scrolling for. This was a 5 to 6 hour break from everything that we're generally used to. So we're not only required to be kosher goyim, but we have to be kosher Jews. We have mitzvot. We're required to distinguish ourselves from the rest of the nations. And therefore, it's the tzaddik, it's the chassid who imbues his environment. Ziv, hod ve'adar, light, glory, and beauty. It's the light of the Torah knowledge that makes everybody else in the world aware of how special we are. And that's the role of the Jewish people. Tzaddik katamar yifrach. We are like the righteous, which flourish like the palm tree. A great deal of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom is required to make those fine distinctions in life, in order to live a life of holiness and a life to create our own personal sanctuary of the Mikdash, the Bet HaMikdash, the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu rests his own Shekhinah, and we each have our own private Bet HaMikdash inside of us. That's called our Neshama. That's where God resides. A little bit of him is inside of us, or at least should be. So, as we conclude this shiur, something to think about, why the Chachamim chose specifically this blessing. The rabbis tell us that if you didn't acquire chokhmah, ma kanita. If you didn't acquire wisdom, then what have you acquired in life? Our job in this world is to seek out the true chokhmah, meitcha, chokhmah bina vadar. That's come from the chokhmah, the specific chokhmah that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Torah wisdom, because that's what separates us and Ben Ha'amim and the rest of the nations. That's what makes us Mamlechet Kohanim Begoy Kadosh. That's what makes us unique. And through that, we're able to pursue and go through life and be role models to all of Klal Yisrael and to all of mankind. Wishing everybody a wonderful night. Have a great evening.